In 1950, New York and Tokyo were the only megacities with a population of over 10 million each. Today, there are over 20 megacities. Cities are growth engines. Life pulsates in them at an enormous cost to the environment. We're going to travel around the world to see what cities are doing to develop environment-friendly mobility. How are they preparing for the future? Is the electric car the right solution for the city?
I believe that electric cars are good, but I think the technology needs to get better.
I don't know where I'd plug this in New York City.
This car is practical. An electric car is not practical for me.
電力ってよくわかんないんですけど、わかんない身として言えば、素直にすごいなとは思います。はい。
For 4 years, we followed the construction of a spectacular car developed especially for big cities. We accompanied people who believe in a car that could help the electromobility achieve a breakthrough.
This thing we're involved in really is a revolutionary project.
Will electric cars be able to excite people?
People won't buy them just because they're sustainable. People have an emotional connection to their cars. They want the cars to be fun.
High speed. It's like a go-kart.
What we can do politically is set the framework, create the infrastructure into which the market can bring the new technology.
In Norway, we drive these cars. We don't use them as toys, so we don't need this.
We'll look at megacities, their citizens, their visions. Will we drive electrically in the future? Are we on the verge of an automotive revolution? Auto Nation USA, the world's second largest automobile market next to China. But New York, of all places, the mother of all megacities, is an exception. It may sound odd when one sees the narrow traffic-choked streets, but 80% of all households in Manhattan don't own a car. No wonder. Even parking spaces here are luxury items. Restaurant owner Tom Malogny is a man who volunteered for the electric car adventure as a test program participant.
I never expected that I'd be test driving an electric car. Living with the car the past 8 months has really changed my lifestyle. I started to maintain a blog about my experiences with an electric car, and to my surprise, it became widely popular. I get emails and messages from people all over the world. And the common theme is that most people want to be sustainable, but that's not enough to make them buy a car. They want fun.
Tom knows what he's talking about. Hardly anyone else in the world has driven more miles in an electric car. He lives in New Jersey, a 40-minute drive from New York City, a typical commuter.
When I used to get out of my car, I'd leave it running and run inside to a store to get a cup of coffee. You know, I drove cars with, big engines and really wasn't concerned about my energy consumption at all. People are curious about how long electric cars take to charge. Sometimes when I'm asked, I'll just say 5 seconds. I know that gets their attention because it only takes me about 5 seconds to walk over to the car, plug it in, and then go about my life. If I don't stand there and wait for the car to charge.
Ever since Tom Malogny tested an electric vehicle for the first time, he's been a convert for a good reason.
The instant torque, the quiet cabin, the smooth, vibrationless acceleration, you can't beat it. I'm not paid by the automobile industry. I'm just a private citizen who really believes in it. I think it's the direction we have to move in.
But is it the right direction for all New Yorkers? New York City likes to think of itself as a green city, and even the police department is gaining experience with electric vehicles.
I love this car. It's an excellent car for police work. It's electric, and it has a good kick.
Environmentally friendly vehicles have been in use for some time by the administration of Central Park, including several electric cars.
New York City operates 26,000 vehicles, the largest municipal government fleet in the United States. We're especially proud that 14,000 of these operate on some type of alternative fuel, especially hybrid and plug-in electric technology. By 2017, we plan to have 1,000 plug-in electric vehicles on the road. This will be the largest plug-in electric fleet in the United States, maybe in the world.
Even a few yellow cabs, the globally renowned symbols of New York, have been propelled electrically since April 2013 as part of a city-sponsored pilot program. Upcar Thin is among the lucky few, driving one of the 6 test taxis. After only 30 minutes at the quick charging station, his taxi has been fully recharged.
I've been bombarded by questions from drivers, especially yellow taxi drivers, on the handling, just the whole feel. As every passenger gets in and as they leave, I thank them for, helping me keeping the environment green. And I've noticed my tips have increased.
Tom Malogny sacrifices a great deal of his free time to infect others with his enthusiasm for electric cars. His destination is downtown Manhattan.
One of the interesting things that has happened to me over my 4 years driving electric cars has been basically just talking to so many people.
People start asking questions when they see Tom's car.
And what kind of mileage or distance, or what is it called?
That's the funny thing. People don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Well, it'll go about 100 miles per charge. They are making electric vehicles for New York City because it's zero emissions, there's no pollution, and in the city, you don't need to cover a lot of miles. You can drive all day in New York and only drive 15, 20 miles.
You definitely don't want cars just stalling out on the highway or stalling out on the streets, especially when we're working. We don't want a passenger be sitting there yelling at us while we're having, when we have to go recharge our cars.
Well, what if you run out and you're not near home? Right?
No. Okay, well, you can still plug it in to any outlet, a 120-volt outlet, a 240-volt outlet. It'll take a long time to charge on 120. If I plug it into a 120 outlet, it'll only get about 5 miles of range per hour. But if I find a 240-volt supply, I can get about 20 miles of range per hour.
So you carry a power cord in the back of the car?
Well, I carry a plug that I can plug it into a 120-volt source. But there's public charging stations around here that you can charge in. Like, there's about 100, 120 of them in New York right now. Most households in America have more than one car, like I do. And when I need to go 300 miles on a particular day, I take my wife's car, and she drives the electric car that day, which she loves to drive. But if you only have one car, you can also join a car sharing service. A lot of electric vehicle owners, like myself, shortly after they got an electric car, realized what they have to do now is install a solar array at their house. Using an electric vehicle that's powered by solar or hydro or wind power makes the vehicle truly a zero-emission vehicle. I'm convinced electric vehicles are going to eventually replace internal combustion engine cars. But I understand there's hurdles, a lot of them. And I'm really interested to see how this plays out over the course of the next decade.
While lots of people still have to be convinced in the auto nation USA, the groundwork for electric cars is being laid in Germany. One of the world's leading automobile manufacturers has set itself an electrifying target. It's a secret project at a covert location with a hand-picked team.
Young people have to get involved who really are determined to bring about change. But you also need very experienced people who have got things into serial production in the past.
The brief: forget everything that used to be. Think in a whole new light. Invent the car of the future. It's the birth of a revolutionary electric car for the city. The beginning of an expedition into the unknown. The design team starts at zero, free of all constraints. What might a future electric car for the city look like? What does it have to be capable of?
This is why it actually has to be fairly high above the road. In other words, fairly long-legged, but you can still create a really sporty seating position. So a good overall height, but with a sporty seating position.
Head designer Benoit Jacob sketches out the vehicle architecture. Above, the light passenger cell, the life module. Below, the drive module with the heavy battery and motor.
Project Megacity, probably that's the biggest challenge I ever had. And I'm not lying. I'm really saying like this in a career, probably the only assignment where I will be asked, make a totally new car, make it into a new brand, create a character, create the car, create the technology, or pull it together. I don't think this will ever happen again to me.
Sound designers have never taken on this kind of project before. A noiseless automobile.
0.7. It's already better. What do you want cars to sound like? I mean, we can do anything. Do you want it to sound like a combustion engine, electric cars of the future? Or do you want to sound it like spaceships? Or do you want to sound it like horses' hooves? You can do anything.
But do they even need a sound? China and Japan say yes. Noiseless electric cars are a danger to pedestrians. But are drivers ready for this kind of artificial sound?
Okay, please come drive our car and experience for yourself. And then after a while, you see a little smile popping up on the faces. And they would say, yeah, okay, if it sounds like this, then I would like it.
The Research and Innovation Center. The small team of specialists has grown to several hundred developers, joined in a gigantic project in which each one gains new experiences.
When you use new materials, you simply have to allow for the fact that there are going to be things you learn by doing.
There are constant ups and downs with the new materials, both for the interior and for the body exterior.
Lightweight construction is a megatrend. You have to work towards it. You can't avoid it if you want cars to, let's say, produce less emissions in the future. So it was a logical step for us to address this issue.
Carbon, a light reinforced textile fiber. This material is well established in race car and aircraft construction, but it's never been used in series production for automobiles. What's more, carbon is expensive and difficult to process. Was it the right choice of material?
But the problem is that we have all kinds of different fiber directions here. And when you try to clamp the whole thing into a tool, you'll have difficulties, because all these threads run in different directions. And you have to mount them in such a way that they don't create waves and folds during deformation in the tool. That's the problem we have at the moment. And we're currently looking for remedies in a big way.
Everything depends on the proper alignment of the carbon fibers in the layered mats. The body will only be truly stable if this is correct. But the first attempts reveal the entire extent of the difficulties. The results are alarming.
The only thing is, and you can see the splits forming here, it's a wet area. You get a bit of moisture, minus 20 degrees, frost. It expands, goes bang, and the thing flies off, you see?
There's no point in talking about whether we can come up with a different geometry here, because it runs through the entire car. You can forget it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So the only solution here is to change it immediately. And we have to be careful not to miss out and avoid clinging to things we can't actually influence anymore.
A crisis meeting with the project director.
Yes, but at some point we have to simply have the guts to say okay or not okay. There is a certain unpredictability about this material. We can't go on putting off decisions forever.
You can more or less tear it with your hands, simply using your fingers. We took the thing apart this morning. You can't build a car with this.
That's not CFRP. That's nothing at all.
Nowhere else in the world do as many megacities meld into gigantic urbanized mega-regions as in Asia. The boomtown Shanghai, with over 18 million residents. China has become mobile, with ever more cars on the streets. Traffic planners have begun stacking them on top of one another. It's already expected that the number of cars will increase fivefold by the year 2020. In the Shanghai GMP architect's office, entire cities are being planned. The city planner and architect Wu Wei is familiar with the mobility behavior of his countrymen.
Currently, traffic is a major problem for Shanghai, but also for Peking and other large Chinese cities. One sees traffic jams everywhere, and the air is increasingly polluted because all Chinese still dream of owning their own cars.
16 of the 20 cities with the greatest air pollution worldwide are located in China. The Chinese government has prescribed clean air. In several large cities, only electric scooters are allowed.
In Shanghai, each month, more than 10,000 new cars are registered. Now the city is subsidizing electromobility and even providing free registration and license plates for electric cars.
But electromobility for automobiles is very slow in coming. Despite incentives and subsidy programs, the infrastructure in the overpopulated cities is still lacking. To reduce the pressure, China is building satellite cities. That is Wu Wei's specialty.
This urbanization process is in full swing and has been for the past 3 decades. There will be several thousand more new cities in China.
One of these is Lingang New City, located 70 kilometers from Shanghai. The vision of an ideal city. When the subway connection to Shanghai is complete, 1 million people will live and work here to relieve the megacity. But in November 2012, Lingang still looks like a ghost town.
From the very start, we thought of clean energy when planning Lingang. Clean energy is an integral part of Lingang's energy supply. Electric mobility has become a trend in the meantime, and we're considering whether we should build different stations in the city for parking and recharging. We very much hope that in the future, only electric cars will drive both along the lakeshore and in the city center.
The greater Tokyo-Yokohama area, with 35 million residents, the world's largest city region. 80% of the residents use Tokyo's highly efficient public transportation system on a daily basis. The high-tech country Japan also has a head start in electromobility and boasts the world's largest number of electric cars. Nevertheless, very few drivers have ever sat behind the wheel of an electric car.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask the taxi driver if he wants to test drive a Mini E. Hi, よろしくお願いします。
じゃあやってみましょうか。
はい、大丈夫です。
わかりました。
よろしくお願いします。はい。
これキー。
そうですね。
スタート。これ。そう。あ、普通と。よいしょ。
It's very different from a gasoline car.
Wow, like a go-kartみたいな。
And it's so smooth. Like this kind of acceleration you don't have in a usually car. It's endless.
Wow, 加速すごい速い。すぐ切れる。あ、テレスコピックです。面白い。
結構速いね。It's quite fast. I thought it was boring, but I was wrong.
どうもありがとうございました。はい、お忙しい時すいませんでした。はい。
最初よく分かんなかったんだけど、pushing this axle and suddenly, the high speed. It's like a go-kart. But, suddenly next time, the push, the braking, the sort of, no sounds. So, oh my God, it's like a feel like, the turn back the kids.
This is the kind of enthusiasm the Munich developers can only dream of. Back to Germany, to the places where the car of the future is to be made. Up to now, the super material carbon wasn't practical for use in series production.
We have to be careful that we don't miss the starting gun and instead keep clinging to things we can no longer influence. Until yesterday, I really was at the edge. Today, I've moved ahead. And it's really a question of how we move on here. Because obviously, nobody wants to postpone the start of production or put off an automobile launch. But we really have to take major steps to get a hold on this series production within the time available.
After countless unsuccessful trials, project director Andreas Feist is waiting for the definitive breakthrough.
Here we've introduced tool-specific measures, tenter frame inserts, which can be adjusted. This means I can increase the retention force for the fibers during deformation. Basically, the fibers are pulled more lengthways, so folds can't form anymore. The material stays firmly stretched out in the mold.
A first success. This way, the carbon body can be built. Now there's no turning back. The decision has been made for carbon. Hardly any other type of production is as energy-intensive as that of carbon fibers, and this energy is in great supply in the Pacific Northwest of the USA. 2 hydroelectric power plants on the Columbia River produce environmentally friendly electricity, and it flows directly into the newly built carbon fiber production facility. The manufacturing process is a closely guarded secret, kept under strict surveillance. But this much can be revealed. In ovens the size of houses, white polyacrylic filaments are heated until they turn into carbon fiber.
We have a very defined process recipe with time, temperature, and speed that produces a very high quality carbon fiber.
In 4 oxidation ovens, the filaments slowly change their color and composition. Then in 2 special ovens, they're carbonized at a temperature of 1400 degrees Celsius.
The Moses Lake facility utilizes a high level of energy for the processes, mainly the ovens, much more than the other plants in the supply chain. Because of this, we have to make absolute sure that we're using renewable, low-cost energy.
Each carbon fiber is now just 1/7 the thickness of a human hair, and nevertheless stretch resistant. In Germany, they're woven into textile mats, a kind of carpet with around 50,000 filaments. When layered, hardened with resin, baked and molded, they form the base product for highly stable body parts that weigh only half as much as sheet metal. A test run at the Landshut plant. Before assembly starts, body parts such as the side panels still have to go for water jet cutting. A high-pressure water jet cuts clean edges with the very highest precision and saws holes for attachment parts, removing surplus resin from the body. It ought to be a standard process, but on this project with new materials, nothing is business as usual. And the quality is also very far from the usual standard.
So not only can we cut at angles at less than 90 degrees, but also at open angles. Then we can adapt the cutting edge.
Yeah, but you can see the problem at a dry spot like this, of course. When it gets into a flange position like this, or gets bonded afterwards. It's a good solution, but we still have to perfect it a little more.
The body is just one of the many tasks in development. The underbody hides the well-protected battery panel that powers the car of the future. Patrick Mueller is responsible for developing the energy storage unit made up of lithium-ion batteries. His aim is to ensure the high-voltage storage device achieves maximum output with a long service life and maximum safety.
We really do subject our batteries to a development and testing program which is pretty much like torture. The crush test really is a brutal form of overload. A cell gets destroyed if you crush it, of course, but no damage must happen, and on all these tests, we anticipate positive failure. For us, the shake test demonstrates that the battery remains stable for the lifetime of the car. We bombard this battery massively with Arizona sand. It's very fine and penetrates the tiniest gaps, and afterwards we hope we don't find any sand inside the battery. We submerge the cells underwater. Our battery is designed to be waterproof. We want to make sure that we don't get moisture in the battery over time. There are situations like that. You run into a flooded underpass, for example. We want to keep the electrical system completely separate from the rest of the car, so no water is allowed to get in. If water can't get in, electrical current can't get out.
Four gigantic wind turbines will someday supply the electric car manufacturing facility in Leipzig with power. But these halls, specially built for the car of the future, are still empty.
Well, it's the moment of truth in Leipzig. We've all been working full on. The halls are finished, the equipment is in place, the parts are ready to go. Now it's a matter of sticking it all together. For me, this is one of the most exciting moments of the project. I didn't sleep too well last night. Now we'll find out whether everything fits together and a car comes out of it all. Then we can set up the next stages of the production process.
Test mode. The first test run for the pilot series on the assembly line. Today, that means only 4 cars for dozens of assembly workers. At the moment, it's all still happening in slow motion. Everyone takes a close look at what they'll be doing in 7 months' time, while undergoing critical appraisal. As the throughput rate gradually increases, and the bodies run in faster and faster succession, every move has to be mastered to perfection. The pressure mounts at all stations, and on the motor assembly line as well. But the real revolution is taking place in body shell construction and in thermoplastic injection molding.
This is unique in the automotive industry. It's the first time you have carbon manufacture where there are no sparks flying around, where we instead create the body by bonding, something nobody has done before.
Using a hot melt bonding method, robots apply 10 liters of glue per car to make 160 meters of bonded seams. At least the noisy welding robots are no longer necessary for lightweight construction. Quiet bonding robots have taken their place. The crash test will show how well their work has been done. These reveal how stable the carbon passenger cell really is. The car is now put to the test. It's about to undergo one of the most sophisticated and indicative crash tests. The Chief Development Officer has also announced a visit in order to witness with his own eyes whether the carbon body passes the acid test.
The nearer we get to the vehicle occupant, the less ought to go wrong. That's the way it should be, the way it has to be.
How many cars will we crash until series production starts?
70.
Yes, but in some cases we make 4 crashes. You can't do that with other cars. In some cases we can do a right-hand, left-hand, front and rear crash with one automobile because they just don't get wrecked in the same way. It's 80 at least.
Today's test, a side impact collision at 32 kilometers per hour against a post. If it doesn't work, the post will penetrate deep inside the car.
Now we have to dismount the seats. In particular, we have to look at what would have happened to the high-voltage storage unit, because it's not just a question of occupant protection, it's a matter of maximum protection for the high-voltage battery. That's a really major issue for us, of course. But at first glance, this really doesn't look so bad.
A key step has finally been taken. But there's still a long way to go before the start of serial production. The Norwegian capital of Oslo is a leader in carbon dioxide reduction and a role model for the world's large cities. Norway uses hydro and wind power. Regenerative energy sources here are put to maximum use. In Oslo, the world capital of electric cars, electromobility has been a matter of course for some time now. The necessary infrastructure was created years ago.
When I was 28 years old, I discovered the electric car for the first time in my life. And I've been driving EV since then. The second car with a combustion engine, because in old times you didn't have an infrastructure. But today I can drive EVs as long as I want because of the Norwegian infrastructure. Actually, I'm driving the distances I used to fly before in Norway. 25 years of push from environmental organizations have moved the Norwegian politicians in the direction of e-mobility. So they have established actually the best incentives in the world to make these cars popular, to really raise the quality of life of the citizens.
We're driving with businesswoman Eva Norderhaug in a very special electric car.
My car is 10,001. It's the first electric car registered in Norway. And I've been driving this car to kindergarten, to school, to my work, daily, in 20 years now.
Charging is no problem. Oslo has over 500 public charging stations, and electricity is free.
I don't feel comfortable with burning petrol. It stinks, it pollutes. I'm very much more comfortable with driving with clean energy.
And there are more advantages. Eva doesn't pay city driving or parking fees. The country is already in transition.
Today, it is maybe 14,000 EVs on the road. We want to have more than 1 million before 2030. What we want to do, we want a 100% solution, not a 10% solution. So we are planning for a total shift from carbon to a carbon-free society. To make zero emission is not only possible, it's actually the only solution. And we have shown here with mobility, we have shown in our factories that we can operate with zero emission. This is definitely the future.
For a clean automotive future outside of Norway, there's still lots to be done. In Munich, for example. Let's take a look back. 3 years before production, the designers decided on a look for their city car. The electric car of the future was the greatest challenge yet for head designer Benoit Jacob.
It was a challenge to combine all these different things, new identity, new technology, new whatever, new everything, and then put that all together. We had to really filter, try that, doesn't look, a bit like chemie, you know, like when you are to do, oh, didn't work, and you try again. This sort of stuff. I'm pretty proud of the whole result. I don't have to apologize. This is like that. Some people will hate it, some people will love it, and this is how this car should be. The proportion of the megacity vehicle, very short car, very compact. You see, like here, this stays like between like 4 meters. This was important for us designer to have like a very short car, very short proportion. Look how big are the wheels actually. This is also making sense when it comes to proportion. They are sitting at the 4 corners. Very short front and rear overhang. This makes parking easier in the traffic. And then a relatively tall profile that actually helps a much higher seating position. You see that you can then drive this car with a very good visibility in the city. Magic.
The design is finally complete. Winter in the Arctic Circle, minus 15 degrees Celsius. Here in Europe's freezer, we're going to see whether the electric car can withstand the forces of nature. The mission for the powertrain developers is to take this new technology to its limits.
Ultimately, the interconnection in the vehicle is also highly important. The individual components do work on the test stand, but the big challenge is getting the whole setup to run the way it does now in this vehicle.
And the electric car has to face this challenge the first time during tests on a slope, while starting up, accelerating, and braking. Using the pedals in an electric car is a major adjustment for the driver.
You have to rethink everything in electric vehicles. We have new challenges to face, including the one-pedal feeling, meaning that we can also decelerate using the accelerator. This is entirely new. Normally, when we lift our foot from the accelerator, the vehicle will maintain its momentum. But here, we can try to use the accelerator to come to a very precise stop.
If you take your foot from the accelerator, the regenerative braking action sets in immediately. This kind of driving behavior requires an entirely new setup. Test drivers help out the developers by relating their experiences.
You had a good pedal feeling. It's interesting because with the electro, it's a lot different to the way that a benzene car will work. I felt that you could get the car instable fairly easily, went into like oversteer quite smoothly. It wasn't abrupt and it was very controlled.
Now we've got a functioning car for the first time. It's really great when the car is finally able to be driven and isn't just standing around.
There are others waiting outside.
When we leave here with the vehicle, we're going to be pursued by paparazzis in a way I've never, ever experienced.
Up to now, no one has seen the top secret electric car. The media is desperate to get the first photos and videos. From the sub-zero temperatures of Northern Europe to the sweltering heat of the South. But this isn't a vacation trip. The development team is sweating it out in a covert makeshift hideaway. The testing program has an extreme altitude test scheduled. A torturous procedure consisting of everything that could put maximum strain on a battery. At the outset, the air temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. In 45 minutes, the car will be at an altitude of over 3,000 meters.
We have a one-time opportunity here to test the car under worst-case conditions. Here we have incredible heat, a long climb, and we can push the electric drive to its absolute limits. The components will become extremely hot during the run, and we can test worst-case driving scenarios that customers would almost certainly never experience.
The goal of the powertrain developers on the way to the summit is to become just a little bit better with each test drive. Will the two engineers be able to better their results from this morning? As soon as they reach the summit, they analyze the data.
We took the car up at the same speed a customer would be likely to drive. We started with a fully charged battery and reached the top without difficulty and with plenty of power to spare. This means that the demands of a normal driver would have placed on the system were also fulfilled by the system. That's quite amazing.
On the downhill return trip, we'll regain energy, meaning we'll completely recharge the battery. That's great.
We're running at about 60%, which means we could still easily drive around in the city. Fantastic.
The city car will go into serial production. It will be followed by a new generation of electric cars. Is this the beginning of a new era? For electric car fans, it most certainly is.
I think it's the direction we have to move in. I've been living with an electric car, powering it by my solar array. It's zero emission, no pollution. I'm not polluting the air. I'm not buying oil. I just think it's such a good thing for us to do moving forward.
The way we drive will change. Electric cars are networked. They inform the driver about the remaining range and the location of chargers along the route. They are extensions of car sharing, subways, buses, bicycles, or a walk through the city.
I believe in low-carbon vehicles. I believe, actually, that electric vehicles will offer very substantially a way forward.
The fact is that the conditions for environmentally friendly mobility are improving all the time.
It's not made for Norway and Oslo alone. It's made for everybody on the earth. It is possible for mayors, for governments all over the world to make the ecosystem that is necessary to create a popular market for these vehicles.
The supporters of electric cars around the world agree. If we want to sustain private motorized transportation, we need electromobility. It will be our decision as to whether or not this wager that we place on its future will be successful.